The entertainment industry has truly become a cultural force, and our next speaker needs little or no introduction. He began his professional career with corporate events, appearing on television shows with the likes of Patrick Doyle, Charlie Boy, and Dana DeBacco. He also made cameo appearances on radio shows with Bisi Olatilo, Sonny Rabo, and the rest of them. He worked briefly with Dakwa Delagon of DP Lekki Limited as executive assistant in 1991. In 1993, he registered his company, Alibaba Hiccup Parade III. And from then on, his focus was on ensuring that the perception of comedians being ne'er-do-wells changed and instead is seen as a profession and a respected way of life. Through guts, sacrifice, and creative dynamism, Alibaba carved a niche for himself as a comedian for both corporate and non-corporate events. Alibaba made the rules, broke them, and sometimes even discarded them, depending on how effective they were. He has been a professional stand-up comedian for the past 22 years, striving to always be at the top of his game, and has in the last 13 years received several awards. Alibaba GCFR is married to Mary and is blessed with 3 daughters, Exara, Brandy, and Valerie, and a set of twin boys, Ejiro and Tejiri. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the platform Alibaba.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. This is the first time I'm presenting a paper on this stage. I've always worked for money here. And just before I start, I'd like to say that before we talk about the potentials in the entertainment industry, we need to first look at why we have untapped potentials. And one of it, as has been explained to you, is crude oil. The second is the problem with military regimes. The third is the politics of selfishness. Another one is tribalism. And then the crave for quick money. The sixth one is poor education. 7 is misplaced priorities. And the 8th is lack of planning. I need to quickly say one thing. It will shock you to know that the National Theatre was actually not built to drive our entertainment or art sector. The National Theatre was built by the military to launder the image of the military that was not accepted by the world, which was why it was agreed that it should be a military hat. And so when people believe that, oh, the government is doing something for entertainment, no. The government is actually beginning to look at how they can manage entertainment, not that they planned for it. They were not expecting Nollywood to come out. And so these are some of the things that had killed entertainment and we just struggle. About 6 years ago, the governor of Lagos State called some of us together and asked if we could study the entertainment industry in Lagos. And we found out from our studies that over 4 billion was spent every weekend in Lagos. And that alone will shock you because you think 4 billion, what are they spending the money on? 40% of it was on alcohol. About 20% to 30% was on venues. Artists and entertainers took about 30%. The others were the allied sectors: printers, decorators, caterers, event managers, ushers, and the rest of them, and security. And so what does this say? We have a lot of potentials and sectors in the entertainment industry that have not been maximized. One of it is content creation. It's a shame that now we buy programs that tell stories that we have here. We buy programs from overseas that tell stories that we started telling even before television was created. We all watched Lion King. We all watched Madagascar, Finding Nemo. It's a story of animals. But I tell you, before Lion King was Tales by Moonlight. And the same lessons that were taught us in Lion King were stories that Auntie Kim had taught us long before Lion King. But what was the problem? We have graphic artists in Nigeria. All they do is meme and take a picture, put graphics on top of it and post. That means that is a sector that needs to be developed. There's no need to mention what has happened in comedy. When I discovered stand-up comedy and saw the potentials, it was very clear. I was receiving 100 naira from my dad, and any day he felt very happy I could get 120 monthly. And sometimes I traveled to Benin or Warri, wherever he was, to collect that money. He won't come to school to give it to me. And then I started doing stand-up comedy. And I could get 50 naira, 60 naira, 70 naira per event. And I was in school. So gradually, I wasn't going home. So after like 3 months, you see, 3 months, he didn't even care. He was just happy that I wasn't coming for the money anymore. And then he came to school and saw my door. Unilag, I was there. Uniport, I was there. Unical, I was there. And my dad said, "What were you doing in all these places?" I said, "Oh, I went to work." He said, "Is it part of your studies?" I said, "No." But unknown to him, I had discovered something that had the potential that could fulfill a lot of things that I needed. And after a while, I started sending monies to my junior ones. And I bought out the people in my room because I needed the space. And what does that say? It means that from stand-up comedy in school, I was already being comfortable just by being in that business. But as usual, my dad wanted me to read law. Because every robo-man wants his child to read law. There are some land cases that have not been resolved. And so, when you graduate, your first youth service is to get that land that the people say that is theirs. And my dad had his reasons. I couldn't blame him, but now that I'm a father and I'm trying to make sure my children also read courses that will not make them responsibilities of mine, I understood why my dad did what he wanted to do. Because my dad said, if you become a responsibility and not read a good course, then later on I probably will be paying your children's school fees. So it's best that you take care of yourself now. And so you must read law. And I said no. His argument was that when you read law, you could fit anywhere. You could work as a lawyer, you could work in the ministries, you can join the police, you can join the army, and customs. At that time, customs was very important. And you could also go into politics. I agreed with him then, but I decided that I wanted to be a comedian. And my dad and my uncle sat in the living room and asked me, "So, who are the examples of comedians that you have seen